Welcome back to the show. James Nichols, John Zella back with you. Life got in the way last week, so
Yeah.
we we're not able to put together a podcast for you. So our apologies. Thanks for sticking with us. I was traveling and then was very sick. James just didn't know what day it was, um, because again, life just got in the way. So we were texting late on Wednesday, and I was delirious because where I was traveling for work, there are like no pharmacies within walking distance, and I did not have the energy to try to figure out how I was going to get there. And so by the time I mentioned to James, "Hey, we can't do a show tonight," he was like, "Oh yeah, that old thing."
It's our night and totally forgot. And you know what? It it's not unlike me to forget what day of the week it is just because that's the state of my current life right now. Whereas that happened to me again today. I didn't forget that we were recording today, but for some reason all day thinking it was Wednesday and it's
Yeah,
not.
it doesn't help that we go back between Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's been a weird season. There was more consistency, um, back in the maybe even double digit days of the podcast. Now we're up to 171, which is crazy. In addition to whatever other ones we've done. Um, yes, I often forget. I do it based on, and that's why I text you on Sunday typically to be like, when are we doing this? Like, when do we have time? Because it will just absolutely get away from us, and then it'll be Tuesday at 6, and be like, well, I can do it at, I don't even know. We've done it at crazy times. We've tried to do it in
Yeah,
the really really early in the morning. We've called each other on lunch breaks, um,
because we love it.
because we love it. Yeah, that's well, and I'll say it, that's an interesting segue because if we had done this show last week, I can't even imagine the difference between what we would have done then and what we're gonna do today. And I don't know that. I mean, personally, I'm not thrilled at where and how the Islanders got where they are. But I think I may have had an actual meltdown had we done that show on Wednesday, because I would have had a whole day to think about it and then prep for whatever was ahead. And the whole, it would, oh my God, it would have been, it would have been a disaster. It
Yeah,
would have,
so we didn't get to talk about the absolute. You said you were gonna have a meltdown, but the Islanders literally had a meltdown,
oh,
blowing
yeah.
a
And that's it. It was
3-goal
just
lead.
about that.
Yeah,
Well,
and to not only the San Jose Sharks, but the worst team in the NHL. And now I'll say this: that's not the first time they did that week. So it was maybe it was a coincidence that the Sharks did that to them, but at the same time, it's not atypical for the Islanders to do that. We've seen them do that before. So it was just like, here we go again, like fucking Islanders, they're doing this shit again. But
well, and you can't get excited about this. Like they'll score a goal, whatever it was, even 4 minutes into a game, or they're scoring 2 minutes into a game. It's really early. You can't get excited. There's nothing to almost keep you interested. I'm almost watching I'm looking at my phone more than I am watching the game. I can't invest myself all the way because it's like, what's the point? I'm just gonna watch them collapse in the third period and go to bed angry.
so had we recorded last week, they would have, let's see, lost to the Devils, beat the Hurricanes in overtime, and then lost to the Sharks. But
And they
since
they also beat the Panthers in regulation, and they
oh,
almost
you're
blew
right,
that one
you're right,
too. They
you're right.
almost blew that
They
one too.
yes. So the trend of them having leads and then blowing them has continued, or at least to that point. Do you want to segue to the following week, which is this week or last week?
Well, I mean, I wanted to talk about the Sharks a little bit because as you said, they had done that 10 other times this season. But the way that we were texting was a little bit different. It was brief, but I felt that you even thought maybe that th- that was a different level. It was, and maybe what that meant. Like that was a critical point in the season for them. They lost that game, and they keep getting points, which is almost irrelevant. It's one thing if you come back and tie the game and then lose in overtime. I don't love that idea. Don't fall behind, have to play catch up, but that feels different than constantly giving the point away than stealing one. And this one again, 11 times, including that Sharks game. That one just felt different, I think,
Well,
and just the way that you were
yeah,
speaking to me.
right. And I had said to you, if I'm not mistaken, my text right away as soon as it happened was, if Lane Lambert coaches this team tomorrow, it's a failure, utter failure. And the reason why I said that and I felt that was because they had such momentum through the first 50 minutes of that game. And then a huge, huge momentum swing in favor of the Sharks that the Islanders had no answer for. And look, no disrespect to the organization or that team, but they didn't have Logan Couture. He's one of their best players. Yes, they had Thomas Hurdle and Anthony Declaire, Fabian Zetterland, and then and I say Fabian Zetterland like tongue in cheek because he's a good player, but he's not like this elite player, right? They have a I don't know, 2 or 3 players who are legitimate NHLers, and everybody else is just, like, trying to figure it out. You can't lose like that to that team.
I mean,
Now
I think the problem is it doesn't matter. There's just something going on. I mean,
right.
I mean, just to not, I really want to keep the Toronto game a little bit separate and Columbus and things like that. Um, but they did it against the Maple Leafs too, right? Like it's just it seems to be in the team's DNA, and I don't. Lambert's not going anywhere. Like I think Lambert's here. Um, in the eyes of Lambrella, I don't want to say that he's infallible, but I don't think he's going anywhere. Maybe Lou knows something about it being the last, he's in the last year of his deal or something. I don't want to speculate. There, something is happening where Lambert is going to be here, right? Unless the team just goes on an absolute can't score goals, outright losing games in regulation, and sinking to the bottom of the standings. I think the problem with where they were in the standings and how they were collecting points was that the Metro was just so tight. Yes, they were in seventh out of 8 teams, but 2 wins and they were in third place. It was hard to really measure where this team. It still is right now. They're second in the Metro. Every team around them. It has around the same amount of points. I think the almost the entire division's above 500 except for the Blue Jackets, which is crazy to me. But and the only thing the Islanders have in their favor is that they have a game in hand on a couple of teams. They think they catch up and maybe even exceed that this week as they play 4 games, including last night. But I think that was like it's just going to be hard. It was hard to measure for a long time, and he's not going anywhere. Is all that I'm trying to say, and it's not worth complaining about. Like that was the last time. You can not like it. I think that's well within everyone's right. He's just not going anywhere, and
I
I
think that's probably right because there were times for it to happen and it didn't. So, it does look like he's here. Now, moving past that Sharks game, I mean, look at the last couple days. Now you're sitting here and you're saying to yourself, hold on, are they getting it now? And I've said to you, and I don't mean to go too off script here, but I've said to you a couple of times during this run that Horvat and Barzell have had together. I said to you, this is the Barzell I've been talking to you about. This is the guy who is taking control of shifts, taking control of a game. He's shooting the puck more with authority. He's handling the puck more with authority. He's just when he's on the ice, he's the center of attention, and you see that. in guys like Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid. You see those kinds of shifts. He's doing that now. And maybe he needed a little bit of, you know, growth himself, but he also has a guy in Bo Horvat who's also filling the net and contributing in a big way. And this is what I've been saying all along. If that guy gets going, and it granted, they also have a guy in the back end in Noah Dobson who is in the Norris conversation right now. Might not win it, but he's like at least considered in top five. They have a lot of parts right now that are working for them despite injuries, which we'll talk about. But the fact that Barzell's playing with the confidence he is has somebody to draw some attention off of him, like Horvat, a number one defenseman in Noah Dobson, and an elite goaltender. Now we're starting to talk about a different kind of team here than what we were talking about a couple weeks ago.
Well, I want to. I'm afraid I'm going to forget some things here. I think what a concern of mine, obviously, is the defense. This is a team that we are so used to um, not allowing so many goals, and now they're just a middling team in that regard. Like Sorokin's number, like we were having the conversation about Sorokin for such a long time, and it was about his numbers and how it was they were so much better than even his record was, and now that's not really the case. His record is better, but the numbers aren't, right? I don't like if you look at that, he's not a best goalie in the world Vezina candidate this season. That's just simply not going to be the case. And frankly, I'd rather the team win and he explode and win the Conn Smythe in the playoffs than win the Vezina in the regular season. I think anybody would make that trade, if you want to call it that. Um, but he's not putting up the big numbers like he was. But the team is better. So you're giving and taking a little bit there. Um, the defense is starting to look a little bit different. There's Riley and Bortuzzo now. That's Mike Riley. And Varlamov is still really solid. I don't think I've seen much change in him. I think his numbers are okay. Still, I haven't seen them in a while. But it's really Sorokin and the back end, I think, that are just allowing these goals, in specifically in third periods. And best I remember, and I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in the last episode, that the Islanders were only trailing an an average of 10 minutes a game. So this is a team that can play, that obviously can get a lead and play with it for a significant time, or the game's tied or they're leading. And that's that's good to know. If they can figure out how to just lock it down, you have a real good team here. On the Barzell, well, I want let's stop there for a second. Are you worried about Sorokin at all? Is it really just the defense in front of him and allowing too many good chances, high danger chances is maybe what I'm trying to say here. Um, are you worried about Sorokin at all?
Not really. I think that it's, part of the regular ebbs and flows of goaltending. Goaltending is so it really is so it's so voodoo. It's just so it changes so much. But I'm not worried about Sorokin because I do think, yes, we're used to him bailing out the Islanders, but you know, there also comes a point where sometimes you don't catch that break. And unfortunately, the Islanders are not playing well defensively in front of him, which is really weird to say. It doesn't sound right because that's what they're best known for. Um, but it's true. They're not playing well in front of him. And that's really what I attribute this to is the defense. It's been really bad. It's almost like, we went from Doug Waite to Barry Trotz to Lane Lambert, and I feel like we're hitting the 180 degree of that cycle where it's no longer we're not looking at a Barry Trotz system here anymore. We're looking something at closer to a Doug Waite system here, which I guess there's a better goal. Well, not I guess there is a better goaltender in net for them. Maybe the defense is slightly better than what Doug Waite's team had going for them, but for sure, I think the defense is really to blame here.
I mean, there's just a lot of little mistakes. You watch the pucks are just going through Mayfield's legs, or there's two defenders behind the net. Nelson just misses an assignment on one of the Leafs goals. It just it's these little things, and God, if I've said it 100 times, I've said it a million times on the show this season that it's a lack of focus. There's
Well,
just little things there that I don't get as a professional hockey player what are you doing out there? Like, how are
let me
you
ask you
just
this.
not paying attention?
Let me ask you this because in my opinion, I understand what I understand the point. You're right. Like these things, like how do you miss these little things that could be easily um that could easily benefit your team defensively, right? However, when you're changing the way you play, right? They were a defense first mentality for years. They're now playing in like this different system. Do you think that they're sacrificing a little bit of defense to try to fill the net a little bit more? I mean, if you look at the goals that they've scored, 4 last night, 3 against LA, which was an incredible game. We'll talk about that. 7 against Columbus, 4 against San Jose, 4 against you know uh, uh, Florida, 5 against Carolina. Like they're scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of how they're scoring the goals, and um I think that's a major difference. I'm really happy you brought this up and you brought up Doug Waite. I think there's a major difference between this team and the Waite team as far as style, because the Waite team's problem was the run and gun, and they was just like odd man rushes, and just the goalies were just getting bombarded. There was no way they weren't good enough to bail that team out. This team is getting beat while they're in their own zone, and it's mismanagement of their position. That didn't if I'm remembering correctly, somebody that has a better memory, I think this is more of a that's a better question for maybe Dan and Mike at Isles Anxiety, but they seem to have a elephant's memory as far as the Islanders are concerned. But I don't remember that being the case. I remember them trying to run and gun a little too much, and the forwards weren't back, and it was off the rush chances. Maybe it was in their own zone stuff. This just seems to be simply they're getting outworked in their own zone. They're missing assignments in front of the net. Um, it's not. I don't think it's as a result of them rushing the puck and having a defender jump in or something like that. I think we're talking about a couple of different things here. It's not wildly different, but I think it's enough in this particular case. And I don't know that the defense is better or worse. I mean, you could argue Romanoff is younger Boychuk, and um, Dobson has the ability Nicoletti had, and some as far as points are concerned, they're very different skaters and players and all of that. But like there's some comparisons I guess you could make. That was a veteran, somewhat of a veteran decor, if I'm remembering correctly, almost 10 years ago. Um, so I don't know. It it depends.
Regardless, though, of the system, put the systems aside. Whenever you're trying to be more offensive in general, aren't you sacrificing a little bit of defense?
I think that's my point. Is I don't think that that's what's happening. I think they're just simply not being good in their zone. It's not like there's not like rush chances or something weird where it's like, oh
Gotcha.
yeah, they're getting killed on odd man rushes, and every time, and that was a thing back in the day. It was just, oh, they were just getting beat every single time on the rush. That was how they were scoring goals for some time too with Barry Trotz, right? They were just eating pucks in their own zone, and then they would just go down once and get two shots a period and score three goals, right? It was just crazy the way
Yeah,
that the Islanders are winning games. You're like, I don't remember them taking a shot. How do they have three goals? Why is it 3-1
right.
right now? I don't think this is that. I really think it's just it's a lack of focus in your own zone. It's like I said, missing assignments. It's very little things, right? Um, maybe it's a system thing. It's been 2 years though, it's like or at least a full season of it. If you're not used to it by now, you're just not going to get it. I don't know that you can just continue to ignore it, seemingly how they are, but I don't want them to go back to what it was, right? They needed to kind of go the other way. But there's a couple steps back that they can take and be able to shut down other teams in the third period, right? And something that I think I forget where I either heard this or read it or wherever. So I apologize to maybe whomever's there. I think it's a matter of the Islanders' best defense in the third period is the offense. So what winds up happening is they keep trying to go back into this shell. And maybe this was Mike Isles' anxiety. They keep trying to go back into this shell and it's not working, right? It's when they push, right? It was they got back into that game against LA and they kept pushing for that third goal in the third period. Like they didn't try to go into a shell and they held them off. It was you saw it was a much easier game for the Islanders against the Kings when they were trying to push and they wound up winning the game. It's so or against Columbus is a lot the same way. They were they were pushing. They kept trying to it's like, the best defense is a good offense. That's kind of what's happening right now. When they try to go back into that shell, it's when it's not working. They're not good in their own zone anymore, and they can't stave off. Exhibit A was last night. They can't hold the other team off, especially when they have as much skill as um, in a 5-man unit as the Leafs do. Right? You can say what you will, and you can make fun of the Leafs all you want, and you should, but they're just as they have some of the best. They have one of the best 5-man units that they can throw out at the end of the game. They can keep up with the Vegases and um I'm blanking on some other teams or Colorado or Tampa. They can keep up with them. I think it's the goaltending is suspect, their defense is whatever, but and the rest of their lineup is ho hum. But yeah, the Islanders just aren't going to be able to keep up with that in the third period, and that was against Colorado too earlier in the season, right? When they were pushing, they were winning that game. As soon as they let off the gas, is when it stopped. That I
Yeah.
think is the biggest problem.
Yeah, and you're probably right. I've I've said for I think a couple of years now, the best defense is a good offense. So, the more often you have the puck, the less time you have to worry about defending against it. So that should be the recipe. And that seems like the recipe that's been going down the past few games
Ish.
ish.
It's not like they're seeing more success where they're actually winning the games.
Right.
Um, and if need be, coming back a little bit. But yeah, I think the Columbus game was great. I think that was a palate cleanse. They really just needed to get that have a short memory and get that Sharks game in the rearview mirror as quickly as possible. And what better feeling than going in just pumping a bad team, um, pad your stats a little bit, but you feel good after that. You can leave the rink and just kind of there's a little less weight on your shoulders. You're reminded you could do it. So I think that was really good. And then LA, I think, was a really good test for them. They come back. Anders Lee is back. Loving what I'm seeing from him lately and the
Yeah.
consistency. Um, I think we were definitely losing faith in him earlier this season. But he seems like he's back to me, and that's super important. He went and had that fight a few games ago, whenever that was, and just got his face punched in. And they wound up losing, which is upsetting. And you're like, what else can this guy do? What can this team do? He's literally bleeding and yelling, and like a gladiator. What like how much more motivation do you need? It's like, are you not entertained? Kind of stuff. And like it's like there's just nothing. There's the needle just didn't move, and um again, that Columbus game, little palate cleanse, they go and play LA, and that's a as gutsy of a win, as they had all season, and maybe their best one, right? Not just because it was a comeback and exciting, but a team that had not lost on the road all season and showed that they can play the other way, that they weren't just gonna collapse and even just settle, and they win that in overtime, and, um, was that the Horvat winner, right?
Yeah,
Um, I I think it's great. Before we get to Toronto, what are your
actually, did he
takeaways?
do that? Did he do that in back-to-back nights?
No, because Pageau had one. Pageau
Oh, so
was,
then that was Pageau. Pageau was LA,
Pageau was LA, Horvat,
and
right,
Horvat
was
was
Toronto.
the Leafs. Yeah,
Yeah, and that and the LA one was, like, what, 13 seconds in?
yeah, it was very
They had an
quick.
odd man rush one way. The puck just is perfectly placed right up the boards. Speedy Pageau out on the first shift, which is maddening in some respects if he doesn't score.
Yeah,
'Cause you're like, "Why?" Someone explain the reasoning. It's like Mayfield and Bolduc or something out, or it was a Riley something. There was, like, a weird pairing. It was Bortuzzo and, Bolduc, right, in LA. It was Bortuzzo's first game.
yeah.
I'm sitting there going like, "What could possibly possess a head coach to make that decision?" But it was like Mayfield and whomever first, like, why are they clearly are not it. Why are you doing, like, it is just the actual definition of insanity. You're just playing the same people. And that's not to say like Pellick and Pulak when they were in the lineup were no angels. I would much rather one or both of them out there in the last minute of a game than Scott Mayfield, it was just turnovers after turnover. It was, like I said, actual insanity. Um, Anything on either of those games that stood out to you, as like a turning point in the season a little bit? That's kind of, um, despite the imperfect wins, and LA
Yeah.
was pretty good, right? Like, I don't want to take too much away
Yeah.
from that, but
No, of course.
despite some imperfect wins over the last few weeks, is this a turning point? Are we getting there? Are we starting
You
to
know,
see some light?
yeah, you'd like to think so, right? I mean, the good news is that like they respond well after San Jose and they hand, Columbus an ass kicking, which they should have. They should have done that to the Sharks too, but it's good to see that they responded. And then, not scoring any goals in the first period against LA and then getting two goals scored against them in the second period. You're sitting there and you're saying, here we go again, a team that's too good, uh, we can't handle comes through and they're going to collect 2 points and we're going to be, calling for Lambert's job again. But then the third period, all of a sudden, Super League comes out and scores 2 goals and they head to overtime. And like you said, it took 13 seconds for Peugeot to score that goal. So
I'll say this about the LA game: if they were just going to lose 2-0, fine. Like in the in
keep it
this
close,
keep
sure.
keep like it. I don't give a shit if you lose. They were just blowing it.
Right. Well, that's what I
Those are
mean.
not the same thing, right? Yeah, sure, lose a game 2-0 to a good team. No one's gonna blame you for that.
Right.
That was almost a win-win for the Islanders. They were gonna get beat by a good team, a good road team, or they won the game. I don't think anyone would have turned around and been like, "All right, here we go." But no, that was they lost. It was a good game. They lost. Fine, whatever. Then they actually win. I think that's really important.
Yeah, so and that's that's what I mean. Like they came alive and they found a way to win, which was listen impressive to me. Like LA came in winning 11 straight road games in a row. To think that the Islanders were going to be the ones to break that streak, you would have probably not circled that team on the calendar if you said which team is going to break this streak. Probably wasn't going to be them. So that was impressive. And then the following day with the well, we'll talk about the Toronto game, but I look at the season in literal months, month by month, right? Yeah, the way November went was like up and down, and it wasn't perfect. Um, you know, the loss to Philly in the shootout was tough.
That whole
Getting your
month
ass.
just felt so long for this
Yeah,
team.
they got their ass kicked in Edmonton and Vancouver. They lost to Seattle. They lost to the Capitals early. Boston, even Minnesota when they weren't going well. it was a tough November, but they started December well. 4-1, right? 1, 2, yeah, 4-1. They got like the most power play goals in the league right now since like the middle of November to date. Like their power play is ridiculous right now. I think that if they can keep the success on the power play, continue to play even hockey at 5-on-5, and just tighten up defensively, they have the goaltending. I think they're going to be fine. And I think that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, yeah, if Sorokin can start stealing some games here and there, and they can, it's just tighten up a little bit. We're not talking about not allowing a third period goal here. It's when it's 3-1, allow one goal. Okay,
Yeah.
then lock it down. If it's 4 to
Right.
2, allow
Don't
a goal, or
just
4
don't
nothing, allow 2. Like it's fine. You don't want it, just can't be an absolute full blown collapse
Yeah,
on a
don't
regular basis,
unravel.
right?
Don't unravel on a regular
That's
basis
it.
because that's what we're used to. We're used to, okay, they're going into the final 10 minutes of the third period with a two-goal lead. How many minutes before they score that first goal to come back and win this game? Oh, 9:59 left in the first period. They score and commence the unraveling. That's got to stop. And lately it's been the Islanders coming back and winning the game.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 186 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved. The holiday season can be chaotic, and I know I haven't started my holiday shopping yet. So while it may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. So why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. James and I both love Raycon's earbuds for when we're playing drums. It's easy to hear our favorite songs and make sure that we're not missing a single note. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space with products like their everyday earbuds, known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features like a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wear and lasting comfort. And this year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Raycon is known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off of everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN. PN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN.
But let's talk about Toronto.
Yeah, I mean that there was obviously Tavares coming to town, gets Islanders fans going a little bit. Um, I think I'm mostly past it. I love the enthusiasm. I love that it's still happening. I don't need to do it, but I
Yeah.
love watching it and I understand
Can
it.
we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, lay it on me.
The the outrage
Oh
by
my
everybody
god,
else, who's not an Islander fan, like some media, other fans.
former
What?
players.
Like why?
What
Like
was it, Carlo Koliakovo or
yeah, Carlo
whatever?
Koliakovo, Paul
Oh my
Bissonnette,
god, what a fucking full diaper take.
like obviously the Islander fan base is passionate about their team. There's no questioning that, right? They lost, and granted, it was a while ago at this point, but they lost a face of the franchise who made it seem like, and again, look, it's relevant. The story is relevant. He made it seem like he was going to stay. He asked not to leave. They couldn't get assets for him. Like there was a lot of damage done in that one decision, regardless of whether it was the right one for him or not. Like if he made the right decision for himself, then that's great. Good for him. But there were ramifications for a whole organization and a fan base, and they have the right to feel the way that they do. And so if they're going to boo him when he comes to the building, let them boo him. He's going to collect 2 points when he's at 998 points and secure 1,000 in their building. And that'll be his revenge. But if they're going to boo, let them boo because that's their team and they felt betrayed. And it's it's probably never going to be okay.
Yeah,
And they're going to
I
do it
also
for the rest of his career.
want to check in with Toronto sports fans when Otani comes to town with the Dodgers.
Right.
Let me remind me of all this Tavares stuff then.
Right. So they were in the middle of saying, "Oh, we should stop booing John Tavares because he signed in Toronto." And then the next tweet was, "We should beam Otani in the head when he comes to Toronto because he chose the Dodgers."
Yeah, I just
That was the spectrum.
yeah,
Stop booing
it's
Tavares, but kill Shohei Otani if we can.
yeah, I don't understand it, and I think there's just an understanding that fan is short for fanatical to a large degree, and sports are so irrational. For you to expect people to be just a run of the mill person about this thing that frankly does not matter, right? So you're starting that's your baseline is you're crazy about this thing that doesn't matter. That's irrational to begin with. And then you're just going, you just love this thing and that's is just this crazy burning love or hate or wherever you are in your fandom. Islander fans know exactly what if you've been around the team long enough, you know what I'm talking about. And, with things waxing and waning, but it's not supposed to make sense. That's almost the point. If that's not even the definition of the thing. So to get on fans for doing it, I don't know. Like I said, it's not. I was angry and aggravated at the time. We all were. Um, the team kind of came out on the other side. I think that was an argument too. Like, oh, didn't they already get their revenge? And um, no, I mean, not only do sports fans have a really long memory, talking to you Ranger fans who many of you don't even know why you yell Poppin sucks 40 years later, but yeah, it's not really even that long ago for a lot of Islanders fans. It's not like again, it's not something that happened 40 years ago. This guy's still playing. We're not yelling Tavares sucks when he's not in the building. No, when he shows up, we boo him. And that, oh man, I think one of the better moments since then, I mean, almost more than making it to the cup, that game 6 victory, enforcing game 7 and the Pulak stop was the 6-1 victory and that Barzell hat trick against Tavares in 2019, when they came to the Coliseum. That was probably one of the better moments in modern contemporary Islanders history. That's what it means. It's irrational. It makes no sense. I think that's just the nature of it. Before going too far off of this, and I was going to bring this up before, I'm happy I'm remembering.
Me too.
How old was Tavares? This will come to a point. How old was Tavares in 2018? He just turned 28. He was like 27.
2018 he was 28. Or well, 2017-18 he was 27, 2018-19 he was 28. Age 28 season.
How old was Bo Horvat when the Islanders traded for him? About the same.
Very, very good
Like
parallel.
the same age.
27.
You brought up Barzell and how he's having such a great season, and you brought up Horvat and how they're clicking and all this stuff. I don't think they're the same player. I think they're pretty similar. Both have leadership ability, are both really solid centers, but it's what they're doing right now, or what Tavares did for Barzell in his rookie season. I feel like is what Horvat is doing right now for Barzell, and I think that the Tavares thing last night and kind of seeing that, and Horvat winning it in overtime was just the cherry on top. And someone tweet at me or leave a comment somewhere, let me know I'm crazy, but it was a weird passing of the torch for me, where it was a little bit of passing the torch and being like, ah, man, this is what it would have been like. Like Tavares is in the game and you have new Tavares killing it with Barzell. And
New
you're like,
Tavares.
ah, fuck.
Wow.
This is what the connection would have been like with Tavares at that age, and you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
this was it. This is, and then you want to go and ask, well, why were Islander fans so mad? Because of that shit. What we just saw in overtime with finally a fucking competent, more than competent all-star center in Bo Horvat scoring a goal off a feed from Barzell we were salivating for that shit.
Yep.
And then you have Tavares and Barzell on the same team and they click. The kid wins the Calder. And then the guy who essentially, like, they didn't play together all the time, but it definitely helped being around each other and playing occasionally.
Yeah.
And it was a possible, like, you saw it, like, maybe someone moves to the wing or, like, I don't know. And you see these two players click and you go, mother, that's what we were missing for 5 years. Yeah, I'm gonna boo. I think I'm more mad now knowing all of that. Like, having thought about it since last night, I'm I'm more mad about the Tavares thing than when it was. Because at the time, it was just, now we have nothing. We just felt like there was this void. With no idea with what was gonna happen after that. But now I'm like I'm mad all over again for a different reason. Because now I know what I know. And obviously Barzell's older and he has more experience and has something to prove. But yeah, I can't help but draw the comparison. Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy. And I said before too, like you do have to wonder if this is just another year, or not. I'm sorry, not another year, but a different year for Barzell in the sense that he's playing with more confidence. He's shooting the puck more. He's handling his game all around with a little more authority. Like there was that one play where he picked the pocket of I forget who they were playing, but he made a really good defensive play that he turned into a goal. And he said, I was channeling my inner Zizekas there. Um, he's just playing with a ton more confidence. So pair that with the having that other presence around, and look, maybe the confidence is coming because he has somebody else to take some eyes off of him. Now all of a sudden he's like, I don't have to worry about everybody on my back. I have a few less people, hounding me to get the puck away from me. This is great. I got a little bit more ice to work with now. Here, I'm going to do a little bit of this. I'm going to do a little bit of that. And now suddenly he's making things happen out there. So, and look, it's not like he wasn't making things happen before, but now he's just able to do it with a little bit more. I keep using that word authority. It's the only word I can come back to, just because that's how he's playing. That's how he's handling his game right now. It's just like when he's out there, when he's on the ice, he's looking for the puck, and when he has it, he's the center of attention. Like I'm telling, I've been saying this all along. He's one of those guys who's up there for me with the McKinnons of this league, the Davids, the Hugheses. Like, he has that talent, and he's starting to play that way.
As long as he doesn't overplay with the puck and try to do too
Yeah,
much. I've said this before. It's what Tavares did with the Islanders for a long time, and he really didn't have anyone with him, and so I don't necessarily blame him. But you can just see when he was getting frustrated and trying to do too much. And I think Barzell is simplifying his game a little bit. He is playing a little bit more north south. I think playing on the wing is helping him do that. He does have a little bit more ice. He doesn't need to cheat all that much to blow by defenders and really keep them honest and keep them moving back. So it's really good. I think that he's on the wing. He's seeing the ice differently finally. And on the other side, you have somebody in Horvat that will just single hand just score 2 goals against Columbus in 20 seconds. So like almost single handedly, just
right.
the one wraparound. Yeah, you have a guy in your line or on your team that can do that. There's a little less pressure on you to go out and perform, so you can just go play your game. And he's gaining confidence, I think, just by being more relaxed, and it saves you a lot of energy. Um, to discuss a little bit about what he said about Cizikas, it's that tenacity. That's what Cizikas brings to every ship.
Yeah.
That's why we like Fashing. That's why we like Goche. They just bring a tenacity to their game, and they're hungry. And when you have the energy, it's so much easier to do that. When you don't have that pressure all game, every single game, the power play's humming a little bit. You can go out there and do your job. Yeah, I mean that's gonna feel great. You can go in and you can play your game, and it's a lot easier. Um,
He's
let's
got
let's talk
3,
about
4,
the.
5.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, he's got 4, 8. He's got 10 points in the last 5 games. That's what these guys do, man. That's
Yeah,
what
and
the
you're finally
elite
seeing that.
players in this league do.
Yeah, the top 4 scorers on the team right now: Barzell 29, Noah Dobson
He's
27,
on he's
Horvat
on
25.
pace to he's definitely on pace to score the most goals he has in his career, right? He's got 9 and 26, um, prorated over 82 games. He's on pace to score 28 goals. He's got 29 points in 26 games,
Like 88,
prorated over 82 games, 91 points.
91.
So, and that would be the best since his rookie season. It would be 6 more points. We're talking about a guy who probably should have been doing this all along. Now they're starting to see it with a guy in Horvat. Like, is it any coincidence you just, like you said earlier, Horvat's Tavares 2.0. He scores 85 in his first season with Tavares. No presence since Tavares until last season, and now he's suddenly on pace to do it again. Is it a coincidence?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's Horvat, right? But it's again, this is what made me really mad about not having Tavares around. Apparently, that this is what was available the entire time, and then they can go against Toronto and um, score a sick overtime goal. Even though they let Toronto back in it, and even though it sucked watching Tavares. The ball's on him, though. I guess I give him a little bit of credit for going and raising his stick and pumping his hand a little bit and waving to the fans, despite getting booed. I mean that takes some alpha-sized man crumpets, as Stephen Colbert used to say. But it sucks when that happens in your building, and I think everybody could have guessed that was going to happen. Um, but it was all the sweeter that the Islanders won, and kind of shit on his night a little bit there. Um, what did you see in this game overall, and if there's any pieces that you want to point out against Toronto that they're not really setting the world on fire either. I believe now they're in third place. Their records are very similar. They might have a
Yeah.
better points percentage if I'm not mistaken, but um, what'd you see from this game, and um, is it a building block? I think the win is important in overtime and holding it together. But is it a building block for the team to move forward?
Yeah, because this wasn't this wasn't the same to me as like the previous games where they had a lead and they let it go. They were playing, they were battling. Toronto's got that talent that's going to be able to fill the net. Tavares, despite the history with this the teams, he's still an elite player and he can make plays happen out there. So he gets his 999th point, and then the following he gets his 100th point on the assist for Riley. They pull the goaltender. They don't get that last goal until there's 7 seconds left in the game. So it wasn't the same kind of comeback for the opposition for me. It was just a hard fought third period, a hard fought game all game. Uh, Good to see the response after they get on the board first. Brock Nelson, you know, says anything you could do, I can do better to Austin Matthews, and that that fadeaway snipe that he had, by the way, was just sick. He is. We talk a lot about underrated players in this league. We don't talk about Brock Nelson enough in that category because he'll get his recognition like maybe once a year. Last year it was the All-Star game. He got named to the All-Star team. So yeah, okay, he was an All-Star, but he's perennially underrated in the sense that we don't talk about him enough. Like he scores 30 or more goals every year. And he does it with such swagger sometimes. He does it with such ease and with poise. He's an excellent player. Um and for them to be able to respond after the first goal and not just sink within themselves was great. I thought they battled the whole game against the Leafs. I think that they wanted to do it for a couple of reasons. One, because they just want to win a game. Two, they want to do it for their fans, for the circumstances. And three, this is they're trying to build something here. They're trying to build a little streak, which they have. So to see them come out and do it in overtime, especially from Barzell to Horvat, after Tavares gets his 1,000th point. You couldn't have scripted it better.
I agree with all of that. I definitely with the Nelson piece that he doesn't get the recognition. He's not. I think the problem, like he would get recognition somewhere if he will. He's not exactly like a Selkie candidate, um, which I think maybe the closest category. Like he's not Sasha Barkov, for instance. Um, you know what I mean? Like there's just something he's missing something from his game from getting kind of league wide recognition other than the goal scoring. He doesn't put up enough points to be there. It's not quite enough goals. He sits there kind of in the quiet middle, and I think from where Islander fans sit and for what he adds to the team, it's super super valuable. I just don't know if it's enough to garner the recognition. Even if he does deserve it, I think he definitely is underrated. I think that's absolutely true, but it's not enough to like get him an award. Like he gets to the All Star game. I think that's the recognition. Um, but he's not. There's I think there are other pieces to his game that he would need to kind of add to it again, like a Barkov. Like he's not a. Does he kill penalties? I don't know why I don't know that. I feel like he's out there here and there.
Yeah, he is. He does.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think he just is an all around very good player, and it's not ho hum in the sense that um, it's unnoticeable or whatever. But he's out there doing his job, and it's to score goals, and that line is so good. It continues to. Palmieri got another one from the high slot last night. Engvall I think had a pretty good game. Um, that line is just unbelievable. I don't know what their advanced stats are, but they're consistently top 10 in the league this season. Um, and expected goals, and they're just owning the puck. I never see that line in the defensive zone. It's incredible. Um, they're constantly moving the puck around and getting shots, uh, and they continue to do it against Toronto. I'm surprised they weren't able to kind of get on Toronto a little bit more. I know their defense isn't 100% right now, and they're kind of moving guys around. Samsonov is really just trying to take the starter role. They have Martin Jones. They're playing the Rangers as we record this. Um, so I'm a little surprised that it was. I don't want to say that it was close, but like the Islanders, the way that they were scoring goals in bunches, especially, maybe they didn't jump down their throat a little bit more. Um, but I thought it was a good game. It was, again, I think very cathartic. Fans really needed that one. Winning it overtime. It was Horvat. It it got on Tavares's night a little bit, and yeah, now they can move forward. And they're 8-1-2 in their last 11. 7-1-2 in their last 10. Um, it's great to see them in the top, almost the top 10. They're right behind the Maple Leafs, according to NHL.com anyway, um, in points and in points percentage. They're it looks like they're in just about the same place there, just outside the top 10. So I'm not entirely sure if I trust it yet. What's that saying?
Which I
Trust but
totally
verify,
understand. Yeah, I totally
right?
get that.
Um, it's great. They're finding ways to at least get points, and that's something positive. Um, they're even just based on last night, they're clearly not out of the woods yet as far as giving up the leads and allowing teams to score a tying goal late in the game. But the feeling around the team is certainly different, and that's something. At least you can get a little giddy. You're a little more excited to watch some of these games, maybe moving forward than you were before. You're like, okay, I'll skip that one. Like I'm not gonna watch. It's a Saturday night. Like I'm not gonna watch the Islanders, or I'm tired. It's a Monday. I don't care. I'll go do something else. Um, there's a little bit of energy around the team. I think fans desperately needed that, and I think we talked about a lot of the big players, but during the last little while, I think Holmstrom has helped kind of buoy things. Gauthier had a couple goals. Um, Bortuzzo came in there. I think he's playing okay. Riley's stepped up. I don't think he's very great defensively, um, but he's helping move the puck in the offensive zone. So going back to Bortuzzo for a second, I don't think it'll be as obvious, but he's the only player on the team that's won a Stanley Cup. So I think it's important. You have a guy in Horvat that brings leadership, and I don't want to make too much of it, but it's not insignificant on a team like the Islanders with the room the way that it is, especially with veterans out of the lineup for at least a little while. Pulak can come back somewhat shortly. Um, and now that Martin is on the IR as of today, they can keep Riley around. They can move Bolduc back to somewhere. He would have to go on waivers, I guess. So they may not. I don't know what they have to keep moving things around, but it's the most quote cap management that you've seen Lamoriello do in a while, and having moving players around and players going to IR and this and just kind of doing anything, trying anything in season that maybe we would have mocked him in the past. It seems a little Garth Snowish, but it's helping. You had to do something, and this is the way that you had to do it. It's not like these players are available. Every team is cash strapped at the moment, so Lamorello's going out there and doing something. Um, I guess you can't blame them for that, and they've been doing okay lately. Like I said, that Columbus game was the palate cleanser. They may have turned a little bit of a corner there and gained a little confidence. So I think that's good. I think we may have gotten through everything. I don't really have a whole lot left. They have a big week ahead.
They do.
If you want to talk a little bit about the upcoming games,
Well, they got the Ducks coming into town tonight, today as you're hearing this. That should be a game where they, like they did to Columbus, they hand it to them. Uh, we'll see with Boston. They're sputtering a little bit. Devils play them tonight as you're listening to this as well. Um, look, that could just be one of those, similar to Toronto type games. Um, not as much emotion, but they should be engaged in a close game there. I don't see those two teams being so far apart from each other in terms of how um, solidified they are, goaltending and defense, and then the offense is it good? Is it not good? You might be able to actually say that. Um, you know, the Islanders might have a slight edge in offense there. With Krejci and Bergeron no longer there. So I look at the next 3 games and I say I don't see any reason why they can't take 4 points at least.
I think the
Um,
Ducks are a little bit of a trap game.
it's definitely a trap game. It's 100% a trap game. Not a little bit. It's a trap. Don't fall for it. Win that
Yeah,
game.
I could see them only winning against the Canadians. Trap game against the Ducks, a good hard fought loss against the Bruins, back to back with travel
Are you happy with 3
to
points?
Montreal.
OT loss to um, Boston and a win against either the Ducks or Montreal.
To me, like you got to go in and beat the Ducks and the Canadians, steal a point
Agreed.
against the Bruins. Like
Agreed.
it's got to be you almost have to get 5 of 6. Your schedule after that, um, through the end of the year, with a little bit of a Christmas break, isn't terrible, and they're in the region. They come back home after the Canadians, and then they're in Washington, Carolina, and then at home twice, and then in Pittsburgh to end the year. It's not like they're not going far. So this there's really not a lot of excuses built in. They're playing the Penguins twice. They play, like I said, the Capitals and Hurricanes. So like, yeah, they play the Capitals twice and the Penguins twice. I think that's through the end of December. There's a lot of winnable games on the schedule, and you have to take as many points as possible, preferably by not giving up the lead, and preserving 2 points the entire time. But that Bruins game, I think, is another test like LA. Good team. Go in. You showed you're capable now. You've beaten a team like LA. You've beaten a team like Toronto. A little more bend but not break. They still need to solidify a little bit. But I think that's a really good test. What the last game that they played each other, well, I don't remember what the results were. Maybe they didn't play each other this season. Yeah, the Bruins spanked them 5-2.
That was in the mid of their ridiculous start to the season, and it looked like the Bruins were back. Not so much since then, so we'll see. But yeah, Bruins are always tough out, even when they're not going well.
Yeah, so I think that's a tough one. Like like I said, I think you want the games against the Ducks and the Canadians. Um, See what you can do against the Bruins. Again, I think that's a prove it game. It's not exactly a win-win. No, like no matter what you do, it doesn't. It's a win for the team. I think they need to prove it. I think they need to win those other ones, and they're important. But I'd really love to see them show up against the Bruins.
Yep, that's the one
Yeah, the other
for
ones they
for this
should.
week.
I don't. It's almost not appointment hockey. The other 2 games, they should beat the Ducks and the Canadians.
Yep.
I want to be able to miss those games because I'm out to dinner or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. The Bruins, I'm gonna watch that game.
Yeah, of course.
It's Honors playing a good team. Um, they need to go out there and just not get pushed around. It's not long. You think about the bubble, one of the bubble years, or right? They beat the Bruins. Was that the second playoff run? I can't remember. Um, so they're capable, and that was a Bruins team that wasn't bad. Maybe they were battling some injuries. I can't remember exactly, but they're capable of beating really good teams. They just need to find some consistency, and maybe they found it. But like we said, um, trust but verify. This is a moment that they can verify that they've turned a corner with this little stretch here, um, and then really finishing out the year against some beatable teams. That even the Hurricanes have been a little wobbly as of late. You can really go out. I'm not saying they're going to win out the rest of the month. I think you're going to lose some hockey games. That's totally fine. McDavid can just come into town um, in a week or so and just take over. Like there's nothing you can do about that. That's fine. You're going to lose those games. Um, but pretty much every game except for that Bruins game is winnable through the more than winnable through the rest of the December. So if you can also do that one, it takes some of the pressure off. It proves it's really
Yeah.
good end of December. There's a little bit of a Christmas break happening. You can look forward to that. You're not really traveling that far. Take that game. You're at home. You have every advantage. You're playing good hockey. Win that game. I had that one circled. I'll be making everyone at the bar on Friday watch that one for sure with me.
Yep. Yep. I hear that. I'm looking at again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games through December that remain. I'm thinking one, two, saying four of those games, I could see them potentially losing in Boston Capitals twice and the Oilers. I'm not sold on what Carolina is doing right now. Pittsburgh, I think they can win against twice. Capitals are going well. I think that's a flip of a coin for me. So there's a lot of winnable games here. Is my point.
Yeah, I think they can do a little bit better than that, but
Yeah.
we'll have to continue. Obviously, we'll continue doing the show, and we'll see what happens. I think that's a little bit of the point of all this, but um, I agree. They can win more than half of those, um, and put themselves in a really good position come January. Um, and then we'll see where it takes us. I think that's it for this week, though. What do you say?
Yeah. Real quick. Though, last thing I want to mention. Um, we didn't necessarily talk about the fits for Bertuzzo and Riley. I think that they've been really good additions so far. Small sample size for um
I mentioned it before.
uh, in passing. Small sample size for Bortuzzo, a little bit bigger sample size for Riley. I think they're both just giving the Islanders that they're leveling the ground on the blue line. I think
They're
Riley can occasionally make a mistake. Bortuzzo's been pretty responsible, but I think Riley can also move the puck a little bit, which is working well.
well. I think the Islanders defense has the yips a little bit. So adding two players that just weren't involved with any of the bullshit this year on this team
Yeah,
is just a calming presence a little bit. You
yeah,
just
yeah.
don't have anybody that's just kind of like gripping their stick a little bit too tight or something. So I think they're leveling things out a little bit. Like you said, I think that's yeah. They've overall Riley's making mistakes here and there. Um, Bortuzzo, yeah, we don't really have too much of a sample size, but the coach decided him and Bolduc should end the game against LA, so that was something. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Lemmerell does moving forward when players start returning and how all that works out. Again, Martin went on IRR today. You broke that news to me, so we'll see where it's interesting. It
Do you
can
want to
there
talk about what I said to you in text, or do you want to leave it in case it happens?
We can. You seem to have more. I'll let you just take it because I can't remember the player's name. That you mentioned. I remember looking at their
Yeah,
stats and wasn't particularly impressed with this season. But
no, not this season, but so just to preface this, I think that so obviously you mentioned Martin goes to IR. That leaves two spots open on the roster for the Islanders. Now, do I think that that means that a move is happening? A transaction might be coming. Is it a trade? I can't say for sure. I just wonder if he's meaning Lou, gearing up for something here. He wasn't afraid to make an improvement last season early with Bo Horvat. Maybe he'll do it again this year. And there are connections to that team that he came from in Vancouver, who's a player who might be on the outs there. The reports are Andrei Kuzmenko might be on the outs of Vancouver. Not a great season this season for whatever reason. He's got like 5 goals, something like that. I don't even think he's hit 20 points yet. He's still playing on the first power play unit in Vancouver, which is a good sign. I think he's still playing in the top 6, which is a good sign, meaning the coach hasn't really given up on him. But I think that it's just not working for him there. And he's a guy who scored 39 goals last season. So you wonder if there's something that could potentially be worked out there. It feels like a Lamorello move if he's going to make one. Um, you know, at the same time, I said that kind of tongue in cheek because I'm like, even though it would be a good addition for the Islanders, they have like 2 major defensemen that are injured right now. If they're going to trade for anybody, wouldn't it be a defenseman? But they also did pick up a couple guys off waivers. This is me really just spitballing here, but I think ultimately what happens is with that injured reserve spot that is gonna or sorry that roster spot that's gonna be filled after Martin went to injured reserve is probably just gonna be something small like Aho coming off of IR tomorrow or today as you're hearing this. We'll see, but that was just my thought process on that.
Yeah, they don't really have the space. Kuzmenko also has a modified no trade, 12-team no trade list.
Well, I also should
Um,
mention he has the same agent as Ilya Sorokin and Alexander Romanov.
that doesn't hurt. That would be an incredible ad. I don't. I guess you just start waiving players. I mean, if you're going to bring in a player like that, sorry, Goche. Um, Probably losing your spot. Lee is probably going to go down back on the third line. It's just expensive, finding $5 million unless Pellick is out, really out long term. I'm just not sure how you make all of that work, frankly. And you don't want. I mean, if you don't want to bet on the Islanders trying to make the playoffs without Pellick, so to be like, oh, he'll come back for the playoffs and they'll Kucherov the situation. I don't know that I want to make that bet, frankly. And even with Pellick out, they don't have the space, which is like a different problem. So the whole how that would work is definitely something. And the players that you'd want to move don't have the space. And you're not going to get Vancouver to give up a guy that scored 39 goals and also have them retain something unless you give them something ridiculous. And I don't really think the Islanders are in a place to make that kind of ridiculous trade right now. I'm open to some someone surprising me here, but it just does not seem like that's something that's really possible at the moment. Um, are you still holding your breath for Parise? Speaking about like a random addition, are you? There's a part of me that thinks that Lamoriello would just wave Gaucher in a heartbeat to add Parise back to the lineup. Especially like Lee's playing well in the first line. You just need to add something to that third line. God, I want it to happen.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. I'm not holding my breath for it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I would be pleasantly surprised if it did, but I don't at this point. I mean, like, what's if you don't know now, what's going to change your mind in 2 months? You know,
Well, they
or
might
maybe
know. I like.
even before
They may have
January.
had that conversation already. They may have had that conversation already. It just depends on when it's going to happen. That's I wonder. I wonder. I agree that if you don't know already, you don't. You're not coming back or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe they have, and he's not coming back, or they, the only literal only two options that he either is or isn't. But I don't know. There's something about how this team is playing different and how he was in the lineup, and I don't think it's a direct correlation. But maybe it would just make me feel better if he was around, and just give it one last shot. I don't, if I'm Parise, I don't look at the Islanders even the last week or so and say, oh, they're contenders now. They turned a
Yeah, I
corner.
mean that's the
They're
thing too.
cup
They
contenders.
you're right, and they've also been holding that one roster spot all season. They've had 22 guys on the roster instead of 23 for the majority of the year. Uh, so you know,
Most of that's cap. They had $500,000 free
yeah,
or something like that, and there's you can't sign anybody for that. So it's a little tough. You waive somebody, then you have like a million and change. Um, so it's a little difficult to say, well, if that was for him or not. Um, I guess you need it if it's an NHL deal in the minors or something like that. I can't remember exactly how that works, but yeah, I just while we're talking about additions, I thought that was worth mentioning.
for sure.
So before I cough my brains out, I think I'm getting to the end of where my chest and my throat will allow me to take this episode. Please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and Anasman Hockey. You can find James' work at New Jersey Hockey Now and the Fourth Period. You can find me on Twitter at John Zella. I'll try to tweet more about hockey. James, bring us home.
Until next time, all. Let's go Islanders.